Mr. Kirkwood, Mrs. Kirkwood, Leah. It's been a long time. We're going to be celebrating 30 years here coming up, and the man of the hour, Mr. Kirkwood. Yeah, just really curious about your journey and how things came to be A.J. Kirkwood and Associates on May 3rd of 1996. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
How much time do we have?
We got all the time you want.
Well, I was born in 1937, just before World War II, born here in Southern California. My dad was very special. He was born and raised in Wyoming, eastern Wyoming, a little town called Newcastle. And he was in the National Guard. All those kids were, I think they joined up when they were 17 or 18. And during the Depression, that's how they made ends meet. So his dad was mayor of this little town. I mean, it was a small town, Newcastle. He learned, my great-grandfather came from Scotland, my grandfather, and he was a steam engineer. And they used steam to power the fans to get the methane gas out of the coal mines. And then when the advent of electricity came along, it was much more efficient to use electric power to ventilate the mines. And Collins McPherson built the first big mine, and my great-grandfather was hired to build it and do all the electrical installation, which he did. My grandfather picked up, and he finished, and he was an electrical contractor there in eastern Wyoming. My dad learned the business from him. My dad had just graduated, or he was in his senior year, and he loved to hunt. So he and his buddies were getting ready. He was getting ready to go hunting, and he walked in the library, the high school, and there was my mother. First time he'd ever laid eyes on her. And he told everybody in town, nobody talks to her until I get back from a hunting trip, and I mean it. So he came back, and he was totally smitten, and they got married. And she was special, she was beautiful. Her dad was a chemical engineer and worked for the oil companies. They had just struck oil in Wyoming, so they had moved there. My dad moved out here during the Depression and got a job as an electrician. About a year and a half later, he started a small business. He borrowed a small amount of money from an aunt and got going. And when World War II and the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, my dad, he loved America. He wanted to fight, and he wanted to join the Navy, but he was 4F because of his earlier injury. So he said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So he sells his business, which is doing very well. Two fellas, Hughes and Palmer were their name, and he moves the whole family, me and my young second brother, who had just been born. He decides they're going to move us all up to Washington. He wanted to become a rancher and dairy farmer, whatever he could do to support the war cause. So off we go. He buys 2 ranches up there, a little town called Onalaska, just out of Chehalis. It's south of Seattle, about 100 miles, whatever. Anyway, so I grew up on a ranch, and I learned the reason I'm telling you all of this is it's kind of why I'm successful. And I learned to work. He taught me how to work, and I have a work ethic that is pretty good. I used to drive a big farm-mile tractor when I was 7, 8 years old, and I couldn't reach the pedals. But that was my dad. If you thought you could do it, you say, okay, get up on the tractor and you drive, and we'd put all his hired hands would put the bales of hay on this flat trailer. You'd pull up 50 feet, and they'd put a bunch of bales, and then I'd drive up 50 feet. And I did a pretty good job. And then he let me, we had a big Caterpillar tractor. He wouldn't let me plow, but I could disc. Disking is where you break up the furrows when they plow. So, and then I'll never forget the day he said, Archie, I'd like you to drive the tractor over to the Hamiltons. They're our best friends, my dad's best friend. About 5 miles away, he said they need to borrow this tractor. You want me to drive this tractor on the road? And he said, yeah, do it. Okay. So I went through a little town of Alaska and to see if anybody could see me. Anyway, I made it. But I just said, that's the kind of guy he was. And after the war, the need for food plummeted, and so we all moved back to California. He bought a home, and he bought out the two fellows that he sold the business to. He renamed the company Kirkwood Electric. Dad treated me at this shop, our company, like he did on the ranch. So I was able to get a fairly good handle on, well, electrical construction. And then I went to college for several years, and then I went full-time working for my dad and learned a lot. And then in 1964, he said to me, your mother and I want to move up to Rogue River, Oregon. I love to fish, love to hunt. And we're going to buy a home up there on the Rogue River. And would you like to would you like to take over the company? I thought, whoa, I was 26 at the time, and I didn't have a clue, and I didn't have 2 dimes to rub together. But he said, you pay me when you can. We'll set up a payment schedule and 7% interest. My dad is always 7% interest. That was fair, he thought. And I took over in May of '64. I did my best. But 2 months later, just 2 months, 8 weeks, I couldn't make payroll. And in the construction industry, if you can't make payroll, you're finished, you're done. So I go home that evening and have dinner, and then I head back to the office like I usually did. There was a letter. This letter right here, sitting on my desk. And I was really panicked, like I said. And I couldn't go to my dad, and I didn't have a line of credit at the bank. So what am I going to do? So anyway, I go back in the office, and on my desk is this envelope. That's from immediately could tell it was from my mother. And so, Archie, dear, Bob just called and said the shop was a little slow, so he was coming up. We'd sure be glad to see him. Arch, when the shop is slow, I know it is quite a worry and strain on the boss. Honey, don't try to push it through all alone. You have the greatest help with you all the time if you'll only take the time to talk with him and ask him guidance. The Lord said, put your right hand in mine and I will help you. Many is the time I've reached for his right hand. Dad and I are so very proud of you and love you so much, but we don't want you to have a lot of worry. You have such a wonderful little wife and son. If only I had the words to say just what I feel, Archie. You take time for prayer, to give thanks and ask for help. You will find a peace within yourself that will help you each day. And she closes. So I read that about 6 or 7 or 8 times, went home, went to bed, got up, made payroll. And but I've kept this letter in my top center drawer for over 60 years. And when times get really tough, I pull it out and read it. But so that was my family. What I learned from them helped me get through the next years. And this was at Kirkwood Electric. This was not the company we have now. And I grew the company. It became quite successful. We did some major projects here in LA, the Bonaventure Hotel, all over. And we did well. But there was something wrong. We did take, I got to touch on this one huge job we took. It was up in Cyril's Lake. You know where it's at, Cyril's Lake. This job was with a company called Kerr-McGee, an oil company out of Oklahoma, and Ralph M. Parsons Company. So they were in charge of the job. There wasn't very many men. This was we were a union at the time. This was out of San Bernardino County, and there was no men. So we had to hire everybody we called them travelers. These guys that came on board, we had about 300 on the job.
Jeez.
To get this thing done. At any given time, about 15 of them were working, and their motivation was to push the job into overtime. And that made it worthwhile from them. And I kind of understand where they were coming from, but I didn't have any overtime in our bid. And I lost the total net worth of Kirkwood Electric on that one job.
Jeez.
And I had a credit line then, and the banks had a lot of confidence in me, and they loaned me everything I needed to keep going. And so I moved up there. The electrical had to be attached. These big high voltage cables that fed the motors all had to be attached to these structures. And we couldn't run our cables until the structures were there. And I mean, they're complete, because you couldn't have part of the structure missing and get your cables through your conduit. Finally, about 6 months later, I said, we're done. I told Ralph M. Parsons, you guys are holding us up. We can't finish anything. So there was a huge lawsuit. I thought they were going to settle with me. But I remember, I'll never forget, I got a call from Kerr-McGee, and they said, Arch, we're sorry to tell you, but we're going to litigate this claim of yours, because I was out millions. So then what do I do? Well, I'll never forget, I was in the office on a Saturday, and Jim Akert calls me. He said, Arch, I never met him. And he said, Archie, I think you got a good case. And I looked at us, thank you, God. And we won. It took a year to get all of our story together, and we won. And I'll never forget, one of our guys went to pick up the check from Parsons, and we had a party. And
To say the least.
But anyway, when I got back full-time in the company, I had wonderful people. Things weren't going quite as well as they should. We weren't meeting our budgets on projects, especially labor. The realization came to me that nobody was accountable. And if the job went south, the field would blame it on the estimating department, and the estimating department would blame it on the purchasing department, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody was passing the buck. So I came up with the idea of teams. And very shortly thereafter, or probably right about that time, a concept called total quality management came to come about, and it was about teams. And so I established teams at my company. It worked. And this was about 1978, 79. I was tired from my adventure in Trona and all that lawsuit. I wanted out, so I sold the business to 7 of our top management people with the idea that they would maintain this team concept. So I retired, sold the business to them in 1980. And I was retired for about 6 years and climbed mountains and did stuff. And After I retired, I got a call from a guy from a company called Sasco Electric, and he wanted me to come over and run the. And I said, no. I'll be a consultant. He said, no, I want you to run this company. I said, shit, I don't want to do that. But I did. I went over there. I was over there for a couple of years. And we implemented that concept.
And it worked. And
You're still
the
using
team-
it today.
Yeah.
They still have it. Then I left there. I just couldn't work for anybody. I never had except for my dad. A good friend of mine, we bought a company, Hoffman Electric. They were for sale. The company was in so much trouble, we didn't know it. Thank God we did an asset sale. We didn't buy any of their work under construction, and so. But company lost a lot of money. I finally had to shut it down. They were upset, the Hoffmans, and they sued us. Of course, we won the lawsuit, but that cost. Anyway.
When I hear that story, it's just it's a lot of risk, a lot of grit, a lot of determination, and a commitment to continue to try to proceed forward. When you have cash flow problems in this business, there's nothing more stressful than that. I can relate to, you got 52 payrolls every single year, and you got to hit every single one of them, and things are going to go well. Then you're going to have some bumps in the road, and they're not going to go so well. But learning from you throughout all these years, how to carry yourself and how to always focus on the team and on the people and give opportunity and acknowledgement, and really that is the biggest trick to AJ Kirkwood's success. If you ask me, it's people. And its structure, and its ability to really focus on not individuals but as a team. And that has been one of the biggest things that I really do think has allowed us to sit in this beautiful room 30 years later.
In 1996, I guess it was,
May 3rd, 1996.
Yeah.
I had decided to start a business. I didn't want a big business, electrical construction again. I called Paul Matt. I talked to Joe Oltmans, my best friend, Steve Dunn, good friend,
Skip Wall.
Skip Wool.
Mike,
He was a developer. Steve was a developer.
Mike Croats.
Mike Croats, he was a developer. Vance Mate.
Mate.
So there was like 7 of them. Oh, and a guy by the name of Ted Carpenter was a broker. So I called these guys and I said, if I started a business, would you support me? Would you give me work?
Did.
And they said, yeah, of course, you're a good friend. And these guys are all, we skied together, water skied together. We were all close.
Hence
And,
AJ Kirkwood and Associates.
I was called AJ Kirkwood.
And here we are,
There we
right?
are.
We are.
And here how we started. By the time
Yeah,
I
thank
met you,
Thank you.
it was 1999, so you'd had the business for a couple years. And then we got married in late 2000. You had about 30 people on Sinclair Circle, 35, because I would take notes. Food for 35, food for, then you grew to 60 people, okay, food for we'd have these safety meetings, and we do them in the parking lot in the smaller office, right?
Yeah, we'd have these safety meetings once a year. She would cook all this stuff, and then she'd put it in the back of my Tahoe. And
Baked
you
beans,
grab-
cornbread, and honey butter, and what else? Oh, potato salad.
The shrimp too. When did that come about?
That was a little
the
later.
Kirkwood famous shrimp.
No, the shrimp were always part of it.
That was about the time when we'd have the safety meetings at that time for about 150 people.
Yeah.
AJKNA started to grow, and more people, and your style of teams, you implemented that right away in AJ Kirkwood and Associates. And then what you provide, you give people opportunity. You gave me opportunity. I always thought I would just be happy having a hair salon and cutting hair. Michael, Leah, what you provide is opportunity. You employ thousands of people. You take care of many, many, many families. And you provide the opportunity for people to grow if they want. They can clock in, clock out, or you can be top management. And you have an eye for talent and opportunity. And you have people today that, Michael and Leah, that implement your philosophies today in the company. And we're just so, and myself, I'm so grateful. You taught me that I could be more, that anybody can be more. And you open the door for opportunity. We take it, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you. And so when Michael, you came on, and kind of always knew it was the one. And then Leah, there was no question, she was the one.
Yep. Well, if I may,
Yes, please.
this is what, 5 or 6 years ago. I had 2 prior CEOs or presidents, and they didn't work out. Anyway, we had an office in San Antonio, Texas. And we had this big job at the Corps of Engineers. The whole thing went to litigation, and we were pulled into it. So Michael was our chief accountant at the time, I believe.
Before, I think it was controller.
Yeah.
It
was controller,
yeah,
I'm
he was-
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So he went with me.
Black
The
Moon,
litigation was in Dallas, Texas, and Michelle went with us. And we were in a room about 3 times bigger than this, and it was full of people. There must have been 150 at least people involved in this litigation. It was arbitration, I guess. And this is how I really got to know Michael. He would get up and ask questions and talk and all these people. And I finally came to the conclusion that this young man was the smartest person in the room. So when I needed to replace that other person, he was my CEO. And smartest thing I ever did. And then, at that time, I needed a chief operations officer. She started at our company, how many years ago?
19.
19 years ago. At the bottom, she was a project engineer, moved up to project manager, moved up to senior project manager. But during that time, she had had 2 children, I think, before she came to work for us. Mm-hmm. And she had 2 more. She got a master's degree in business. During this time, she's working for us. Gets a law degree, passes the bar. So it was obvious that she was going to be our chief operations officer. And she's like a daughter to me. He's like a son to me. And I just love them both. But they are running A.J. Kirkwood and Associates today. I rarely go in the office because I have total confidence in them. And so that's all I have to say about that.
I struggle here, but I'm going to compose myself. We got extremely blessed. You and I didn't have children, but that's our daughter and that's our son. And it doesn't matter, blood or not. We're family. And actually, that's how we feel about, Arch and I do, about everybody. You know, Kirkwood, we're family. You treat them as family as well. And they want to be there. And that's, again, a testimony to you and what you've created for everybody, for us. I'm proud of you.
Well, it's like my dad. You want to drive the tractor to the Hamiltons?
Yeah.
That's where I learned that. And
Yeah.
I
She
had
doesn't-
total confidence in you
She
guys.
doesn't even let me have power tools. You got to have guns, you got to have tractors, you got to have all these things. I get none of those things.
Well.
Lee and I, we've worked together for 18, 19 years now, but
Yeah.
we've worked close for the last 5. We finally get the chance, the pandemic and all this shit, it was just terrible. So we finally get the chance to go out and have a little bit of fun. And it's the CW Driver, annual golf tournament. So it's our first time golfing together. And I'm thinking, Leah's just this big, she's like superwoman to me. She really is. And so I'm expecting that she's going to get on the tee box, and just like everything else that she does with her life, it's going to be effortless and great. And I'm expecting so many things out of this. And Dana Roberts, the CEO with Driver, he's sitting back, he's in a golf cart, and he's talking to a couple guys. So we walk up to the tee box, and Leah puts her ball on the ground, and she goes to hit it. The ball went about 3 feet. And I just remember
I know the feeling.
I almost buckled over.
You didn't almost, you buckled over loudly and pointed at me and said, "Oh my God," and was laughing, and everybody turned around and
didn't
laughed at me. Can you believe he did this to me?
It
Yeah.
was hilarious.
Yeah.
We used to do this October hack thing, and this was out in the desert. It was at State Line. It was just, I think it's a classy establishment. Leah, she won't touch it. But
no way.
Bradley Hannenberg and I, there was 2 courses. Remember, there was that lake course, and then there was the desert course. And to think like all those years ago, and then we're sitting around this table having this conversation now. The one group went one way, and they went to another course, and Bradley and I ended up going another way. So we ended up playing the wrong course altogether. Now, the entire tournament goes on, and we come in last. So we're still finishing last, and there's only 4 people playing. And I'll never forget, he's standing on the 18th green looking for Brad and I because we had gone missing. And we're pulling up, and Bradley goes, is that Mr. Kirkwood? And I go, I'm pretty sure that's Mr. Kirkwood. He goes, oh my God. And Arch, I'll never forget, just looked at us, and he just shook his head and turned around and walked away.
Thank you, Michael. That was a good story.
So I want to ask Leah, when you started with A.J. Kirkwood and Associates, what was your job then?
Yeah, that was 19 years ago. I was partnered with Ernie Nunez. He was a project engineer at the time, and I was hired as a project engineer. And I enrolled into a trainee program through ABC. Michael and I did the program together, actually. And it was a 4-year program that we did at night. And we learned all the basics of electrical and then some. And I took my journeyman's test 4 years later, and I passed it. And at the same time, I went to school, all while working for A.J. Kirkwood. But that's because of the opportunity that A.J. Kirkwood gives. And that all starts with you, Arch.
Thank you.
And that's something that you always said is give them the opportunity, trust them, and it's up to them what they do with those opportunities. So thank you for that. I just look at it as a good team, and I have Michael. And you and
guys
Michael
are
are
a
actually a
great
lot
team.
alike.
Right?
Arch and Michael are a lot alike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you guys both have a lot of faith in the people that you choose. Michael has a great team. I know he very much supports everyone that works with him, and he's always says to them, you're the boss, you make the decision, this is your team, and you have a lot of trust in your team, and that's something that you've always done as well. You've always trusted your team.
Yeah.
Another thing that is very similar about these two is they always make everything look effortless.
Right?
Yeah, everything looks easy. You make everything look easy.
I do.
You do. But I know there's a secret to it. They study a lot. They put the time in, you put the effort in. I remember going to the testing office. I would arrive early because I had a long commute. So I'd come in the back door often, and Arch would already be an hour into his day. What time did you get to the testing office? 5
She threw me
a.m.?
out of bed at 4:30.
I was going to say, it had to
At
be around
least-
5
at
because
least.
I got there early to beat traffic. But I would go and he was already digging into the single line, reworking the single line, and I would just kind of walk by, see what he was working on. But he would get up early. He would know more about any job than anybody on the team, and always very, very prepared. So although both Michael and Arch make things look easy, it's because they put the time in.
We wing it.
Yeah, you like to pretend that you wing it.
I love the relationship that these two have the working relationship that they have, and the way their management style is like you, and the way they run the company, and they're a good team. And the beauty of what you've created is you've taught me life is a risk, Michelle, because I'm not a risk taker. I like sure things, you know, I don't do that, but you taught me, and taught me very well, and I had complete faith. There was no question in my mind, even in the toughest times, that we were going to make it. You were destined for success with this. And you said to me, life is a risk, Michelle, and if you don't take a risk, you don't take any chances. You don't get an opportunity to win or lose or grow or anything. And I never have forgotten that. So I'm a little bit better at being a risk taker now because of you. And also another beauty of who you are, this is a testimony to you and to your team here, is nobody wears their titles on their sleeve. Nobody does. So you've also taught us to be, there's beauty in being humble, and that garners more respect than it is if you walk around with airs. We do not, and you do not, I do not, Leah does not, but yet people know who you are.
And we've continued, Leah and I, we've continued that same trait. We look to advance people that remain humble, remain cool, calm, and collected. They're not boisterous. They're not in it for themselves. And
Love the company.
and it's odd that, you know, in life when you do things for other people and you put that energy and that effort out for others, it's amazing to see how it comes back to you tenfold. So when you invest in good people and provide them opportunity and structure and stability, it's amazing what you as an organization can achieve. And I've been with, lucky enough to have been with this place for a little bit over 18 years now, and I can tell you very confidently that I really do think it's the best it's ever been. I think that we are very focused on making sure that when new people join our organization, they're very familiar with the standard that's been set from the previous 30 years, and we're very focused on making sure that they get the same opportunities that each one of us have had at your company. But it is the company's mission to make sure that we always operate in a very clean, consistent, and ethical way, and that we make sure that all of our people understand the standard that was set by you so long ago. But that's how we continue to operate, and that's how we'll operate long into the future.
The legacy.
It's all about the people.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Thank you.
We were doing a thing with ABC, the Young Professionals Group, and I never really thought about it, but I was talking with these younger people, and it is true. I had said something, and I really do get to work with my best friends. Every single day I get to show up and I get to work with some of the best friends that I have on this planet. And it's when you have something like that, and you did all this and you took all of this risk, because we understand that. We certainly understand, like, going through good situations and bad situations and recessions and good projects, bad projects. But when you have your best friends that have your six and you've got their six, it is just, it's been one of the greatest joys in my life to watch them grow and to watch them train others and just to watch that cascading effect start all over again. But you never work a day in your life when you have something like that, and that is not something that just happened. It came from you. It came from this woman here, and we can't thank you enough for the opportunities that you've given us. And
Thank you, Coach.
all we can try to do as individuals and as a company is pay that forward and make sure again that our people at AJ Kirkwood understand the history of the business, the legacy that's been driving it for almost 30 years now, and then do our best as a team and as a company, again, just to make sure that every young man and woman that comes into that place, that they get their chance. And we will always continue to pay it forward and make sure that they do, so that we can keep this thing going for another 30 years.
The next,
60.
yeah, the next generation.
Let's keep going. I love you guys. Thank you so much for what you've done.
We love you.
Thank you.